Hello.
Hey everyone. Can
Happy
y'all see us?
Tuesday. Good to
Um,
see you today.
we are not saying anything until we get people to like, love, share, tag a friend. Um, so y'all can have us sitting here all day. It's up to you. Figure it out.
You swear.
You so silly.
Um, so we have some announcements to make. I'm going to go ahead and get those announcements started while y'all start tuning in. We also want to announce a winner. We have a winner
Oh,
that we want to
yeah.
announce. So y'all tune in for that. Hopefully he is available and he is tuned in to claim his prize today.
I did see like 2 or 3 answers to our actual contest last week.
Mm-hmm. We want to keep running them. So, okay. All right. So I see the people coming in and tuning in. The people are tuning in and live, and so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So,
All
I want to let
right.
you
Let's
know,
do it.
Rain is coming to you live and in color. If you own this bitch, you are watching and you was enjoying yourself. We're gonna enjoy ourselves tonight. We have an interesting topic that I'm ready to dive into tonight. We're calling it allies and PFlags. We'll kind of get into the definition of what that means and look and all of that later on today. I also want to let you guys know and remind you that we are not another entity of Rain. We are a part of Rain. Keeping 100 is not something separate. We're just a group of people talking and communicating about things that we go throughout life and our experiences. So I had a question a couple of days ago about, is that something different? No, we are a part of Rain. We are Rain. We're just Rain Outreach Team. So I just want to make that known out there. So we are still doing the virtual support groups. As of right now, I'm looking for individuals between the ages of 18 and 24 who are Black and are same gender loving. So if you can please hit one of us up, if you are in that age range, it's an opportunity for you to make some money. Sit down and have a conversation with me. But I also want to challenge you guys to start, thinking about our community and our future as a whole. The challenge is, historically, white people have sat behind their desks and made interventions as it relates to us in our community. However, they're not experts of our community. We are. So it's time for us to step up and prep up, and actually be a part of that conversation. So in that conversation, I'm not walking away trying to sell you prep. We're not walking away trying to make sure that you're on prep. That is not the point of the conversation. What I want to know is, what's your hesitation? What does our community think about prep right now as it stands? How were your friends, talking about it? What your family say about it? If you could talk to your mom about it, what would you say? I want to know, how are we talking about it in our community? So that is the conversation portion. So please, please, please hit us up. They all know how to get in contact with me, so that we can make that conversation. We can be a part of that conversation, and we create our own interventions, because that's where it lies. So please, please, please be a part of that. And also, we're going to pay you for your time. We know your time ain't free, so make some money. Sit down and talk to us. Adjacent to that, we're also doing the same thing with in-depth interviews. We call them IDIs. So instead of doing a focus group, we're looking for people who are on prep or have taken prep once before. And we want to know, what is your success story? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? When you was taking it, how did you feel? How did it not make you feel? Did you feel secure with yourself? Did you feel secure with other people? Did your family talk shit about you? Did your mama talk shit about you? Was your cousin? We want to know all of that information so that we can create an intervention that is realistic, to our community. So the more people that we get a part of that conversation, the more of an intervention that we can make. So I'm challenging you guys to make sure that you hit us up and be a part of that conversation. The in-depth interviews are also paid, so we will make sure that we pay you for your time for sitting down and talking to us. We're doing those by phone and or video chat as well. Patrice, Sean, and Bryce are also doing those as well. Shout out to CREW. CREW stands for Community Resource and Empowerment and Wellness.
What's up,
They
crew?
focus on substance abuse as well as mental health. What I love about CREW, that is our sister organization. One thing I love about them is that they are following the harm reduction model. And what that means is if you're doing your substance use or your drug of choice 7 days a week, their goal is not to try to get you to stop altogether. Not at all by far. They want to tackle, they want to challenge you to do your own goals. If you're doing 7 days a week and you want to decide to do, hey, I want to do 5 days a week instead of 7. That is something that we are going to applaud, congratulate, and look forward to you of us helping you get there. So those goals are your goals, and we're there to assist you on your goals. And they also have mental health counselors there as well to kind of talk you through information and through things and navigation of all of that. Shout out to Uplift. Uplift is also an organization that we're working with. So they are for people that are in the LGBT community and that needs intensive case management. So most times, like places like RAIN, we only service individuals who are positive and or who are negative and are accessing PrEP. Uplift, if you don't have any interest in none of that, Uplift kind of steps in and kind of assists you with traditional case management things as well that's not affiliated with HIV and or PrEP. So if you are in the community and you are LGBT affiliate and you need assistance, you can contact Uplift and actually go through them for case management services. Okay. I also wanted to bring up I'm actually going to let Patrice take over from here on out so she can introduce PFlag and introduce the things that we're talking about today. This is our conversation, keeping it 100, PFlag and Allies. So I'm going to let Patrice, before I let Patrice take it over, let me introduce my fabulous panelists. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Are you excited?
I am excited. So Bryce, I'll let you go first, sir.
Hey everyone, my name is Bryce Curry. I'm the peer nutrition specialist at RAIN. So what I do is that I get those who have been out of care for 6 months or longer who are HIV positive, and I help them re-engage in their care. Also, if you're newly diagnosed, I get you into care within 2 to 3 weeks of your diagnosis. I case manage you for a year, I hold your hand, I help you navigate your care and retaining your care. I also provide you with services that might assist you retaining your care along the way. So if you or someone needs my services, please call the number down below.
Perfect. Thank you. And Patrice, go ahead and introduce your lovely self.
Hi, I'm Patrice. I am the PrEP case manager at RAIN. I run a program that assists people in getting onto PrEP, whether you have insurance or not. If you do have insurance, you won't have to worry about copays for your prescription. If you don't have insurance, then I will be able to get you into a doctor's office, get you enrolled and onto PrEP with no cost to you. Please feel free to give me a call if you're interested, if you have questions. I understand people have questions about these so-called lawsuits that they see. So please feel free to give me a call, shoot me a message in my inbox, so we could definitely talk about that.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay, and you all know who I am. It's your boy Johnny out here, just doing what I'm doing and whatever. That's my call. That's my chat line intro back in the day.
That's your chat line intro.
But without further ado, I'm going to let Patrice take over so she can introduce our topic today and our panelists.
Okay, so most people know who I am. My name is Patrice. I am the straight girl on the team. I have been an ally for years because of my little sister and my older sister are part of community. Working at Black Pride this year, I had the fortunate happenstance of meeting a group called PFlag. PFlag is a group in Charlotte that was founded in '73 by a parent of an LGBTQ kid. She wanted to learn how to support her son and be there and teach other people how to support and be a positive space for people in this community. This is not an easy life by any means, especially in this country. And to be able to support children, teenagers, even adults who are coming out in a society that is not always given a positive feedback. This is a valuable resource for anybody that wants to be an ally or anybody who has a family member that has either recently come out or has come out now and you just don't know how to go about being a positive part of that change. They are located in Charlotte. They do have a Charlotte location, and it's actually their offices at the Time Out Youth Center. They have some really nice people. Karen runs that, and she can give you great information. So they have virtual peer support group meetings right now since the COVID is going on and nobody in person. If you want to know more about some of the things they are doing at PFlag, you can go on their website at PFlag, that's PFLAG, Charlotte.org, and get more information about some of the workshops they're doing. They're doing some workshops about fostering LGBTQ allyship in the workplace. And I think that that's something that is very important and should be doing more in the community. Now, today we also have a guest that I'm really excited about speaking to. His name is Justin Perry. He's a MSW, LCSW, LCAS, and is the founder of Perry Counseling, Healing, and Recovery, PLLC. He and his team of clinicians specialize in treating individuals 13 and up and families who struggle with shame, insecurity, and personal relationships. Perry is a proud Charlotte native and a graduate of West Charlotte High School, has also interned at First Freedom School in 2002. He also earned his Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Sociology, as well as his Master's in Social Work from UNC Chapel Hill. Come on in, Justin. Woo!
Team, hey man, hey.
Hello.
Kind of greeting every day, man. Hey.
I tried to make it, fun for you, so you wouldn't feel like we was leaving you out.
Yeah, I wish I would get that kind of greeting when I'm doing bedtime after this. So yeah.
Oh well, children are a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother category.
Uh-oh.
Did we drop them off?
Yeah. I think.
Are we bouncing around? Okay.
Okay.
Let me we're gonna talk about inclusion. I see what we're talking about right now. Right?
I'm so sorry. So Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this allyship of this community.
Sure. So one, I was humble when you reached out to me, and I would say this very clearly. I don't use the language outside myself to say that I'm an ally or whatever else. I allow folks to say that for me, right? And so,
Okay.
if somebody said that, I'm grateful, and it's something for me to live into, right? And I think, because sometimes I think sometimes we use that term, whether it's got to do with LGBTQI issues or whether it's got to do with racial issues. Sometimes we self-appoint ourselves something, but we don't necessarily know that we're really living into that. And so,
right.
For me, it's been a journey, I guess is what I would say. I've always been somebody who's stood up against people that have been being bullied and things of that nature. But I'm also pretty transparent. I tell people that if I think about myself in middle school as a boy, I certainly participated in jokes that were happening, right? And the thing was, I didn't really truly understand it, but at the same time, I kind of laughed along and I played along and everything else. But the more as I continued, whether it's in high school and college, I constantly found myself, one, standing up for folks who were getting picked on, two, doing a deeper dive and saying, how isolating is this, right?
Right.
So again, as we're sitting on here as four Black, y'all are younger adults than I am. I'm going to say young adults right now, right? But four Black young adults, I already knew that it's easy, to get isolated from a racial standpoint. But then even when you start talking about moving into the space of gender and sexual orientation and things like that, what I'm realizing is like, wow, folks, even within that, you're getting isolated within this group. And so for me, it's been a journey, and I'm always very transparent about that, which is to say that I had to say that out loud, because to me, I think sometimes we have this idea that you were either born quote unquote woke, which is a word I don't really even like using, but to me, regardless of where you are, we all can do better than whatever we did, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a clinician, you know, constantly seeing folks coming to my office with pain from all kinds of places. As somebody who grew up in the church and is active and everything else, realizing how much impact the church, especially when I'm talking about Black, I mean, when we're talking about the LGBTQ population, period, but then the Black LGBTQ population just being alienated within something that really, ideally, is supposed to give you affirmation and support.
Right.
And so, to me, I don't know. I felt a calling to step up more in the same way that if I'm calling in white people to step up against racism, as a man who is heterosexual and cisgender, this is the equivalent, right? Like I'm supposed to step up here. I can't say to white people step up on this, and meanwhile I'm participating in homophobia and transphobia and everything else. And you know, and beyond that, I think it's one of those things too. Just speaking, and I'm speaking a lot, obviously within our community. I think there's so much work for us to do to really give each other the space to truly live into who we are, right? And, and so I'll let you ask other questions, but I know you asked me, you asked me an open-ended question, kind of like a therapist.
Sorry.
Just kind of let people go, right? You know?
Right. No, that's okay. That's okay.
It's all right. I mean, it's interesting to me how each person's journey that is not a part of this community and how you become what in my day was just called friendly, or they used to call me a fag hag and all that good stuff. Right. And I probably am older than you, Justin. I just have different color hair. But for me, growing up with my little sister, who is a trans woman, it was never something that I really thought about. I knew the things that she didn't like to do, some of the things that she enjoyed to do. She did like sports. She did like basketball. But I also remember very vividly my sophomore year of college when my sister went to college, and that's when she decided to. And I remember my cousin looking at me and telling me, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you and your mom." Mm. And I was so taken aback that why would you say that?
Right.
How has that person that you grew up with all your life now all of a sudden somebody that you feel like you need to feel sorry for me? And I was so offended that I actually didn't talk to that person for a couple of years. But and now when I see her with my sister, it makes me feel better that she's been able to let go of that. And I know that me snapping her head off in the beginning was a good beginning way for her to let go of that. Sure. After seeing and watching my adopted sister having to lie about who she was because she was a counselor in public school, having to hide her relationships because she was afraid that she was going to get fired from a job she loved. Those are the things that to me very early on stood out as what the fuck. And it's now become a more protective type thing. Now it's about trying to protect the people that I know are having a hard time, because I've been in this community for 20 years now, and I've seen what can happen if kids are just left out there and just dropped off. Unfortunately, there's a lot of good in every community, and I try to make sure that they can stay a little bit safer than just being kicked out of the house and left homeless and all those kind of things that actually really do happen that people don't think happen.
No.
Right. No. I think that, and I wanted to chime in. You said something earlier, Patrice, that I definitely wanted to kind of get more insight on. I think both of y'all actually kind of said it in so many ways. I mean, that was the difference between an ally and what that looked like. Because I know that sometimes, people consider they may be cisgender males that are just friends of mine, but they're only tolerating me because they're my friend and they like me as a personality. But I don't necessarily think that makes them an ally. So I guess, what are the perimeters that we can kind of discuss in regards to what is an ally?
For me, looking at ally, activists, advocates, I kind of do think they're all the same thing. They're not for everybody. For me, it is, because I try to do all those things. I try to promote equality and love is love. And I am very loud about it and very protective of all my kids. I have 20 plus gay kids, so I am very much invested in their well being. And that's what those words mean to me, being there for the people that need you the most.
Yeah, I love like the way you framed it, Johnny. Again, because what you're talking about again is it's easy to parallel even just from a racial standpoint is how we can tokenize folks, right?
Right.
So the reality is like I'm cool with Johnny, but I like him in spite of his lifestyle, as
right,
say, right?
Right.
Like, oh, what you just say? Wait a second, I can't really. These aren't things that I can. They're not a uniform I take on and take off. This is
Right.
me. And so for me, when I think about these terms, what this means is that one, am I willing to listen and learn from this person? Two, am I willing to work in partnership with this person to advocate and support whatever it is that's important to them? Am I willing to put myself out there? You know, so again, like the example again, and I often will give for me, because like I said, I was already on this journey, and I had already shifted out of a lot of my middle school stuff, like high school, but I still remember in college there was a guy I remember in school, and he never would say anything, but like we all, like whether it was on the elevator or whatever, like he was seeing and he was smiling and he was making eyes at me, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty sure he's into me or whatever else. But you know, like in the same way that if it were, you know, me and another woman or whatever else, but at the same time, I never said anything to him. He didn't say anything to me. And I remember having this thought to myself that it's like, I wonder if the fear of actually saying something could lead to, is somebody going to respond to me violently? Right.
Right.
And again, like, and the thought process for me was like, if I didn't say something to a girl, it was more just, am I going to get embarrassed or clowned or whatever else? It wasn't so much about worrying, is this person going to have some kind of violent reaction because of their own phobia and everything else? Whereas when you're talking about homosexuality, and God knows when you're talking about transphobia, you know, these are real things. But, you know, I think one of the things for me when I look at this space was a few years ago when the HB2 was the legislation was going on, and I was in the barbershop, you know, and I always say, you know, it's the black male version of the country club for white folks, right? And
right.
so
Right.
yeah, everything, you know, everybody's popping on. We talk sports, we talk politics, we say, you know, there's some shaky stuff to get said in there or whatever, right? And so we're in there, and somebody said something about HB2, and they said something about the sissy bill, and yeah, we don't want to let these sissies in the bathrooms with our girls. And I was like, it hit me on so many levels, right? Like, and as somebody who my whole career, I've worked with people who've been abused, right? So I've worked with people from the 16 years ago. I was working with folks that have been through any type of physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse you can think of. I always say that again. My clients have lives that make Law and Order SVU look like the Disney Channel. And what I knew
Right.
about that was that the people who were abusing them were not trans folks, right? The
Right.
people who were abusing, and so I had that moment, and it was like, oh man, this is, you know how you tell the white people to step up? This is your moment right here. And so I found, I was sitting there and I'm getting the cut, but I chimed in and I said, hold on. I said, hey guys,
Hey, Justin,
yes.
can you turn your volume up? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Let me see. Let me check that real quick. Can you hear me all right now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
So yeah. So what I was saying was that, so yeah, I just decided I'm going to lean in, and I said point blank, I said, look, I've been working with folks that have been being sexually abused at that point for like the last 13 years. I was like, I can tell y'all stories that will make everybody in here cry. And at no point in any of all of the clients I've worked with from ages 5 to ages 75 have I heard of any of them being abused by somebody who's trans. In fact, what I know about that is the folks that I've worked with that have been trans are more likely to have been abused. They actually have more fear about the bathroom than any of us do. Second,
Right.
the people who are actually abusing the kids look like us.
Right.
You know, it's the dad, it's the uncle, it's the coach, it's the pastor, it's everything else. And so I was just like, you know what, I went ahead and shot the shot. And then like a second later, a guy who had been in prison for about 20 years chimes in and he said, you know what? He's right. He said, when I was locked up, and again, he's still, you know, he's not as far along in the journey, but he said, he's like, you know, the sissies, he said, you know, they stuck to themselves and they were just trying to stay safe. And the people who were in there for abusing kids look like the rest of us. And to me, at a minimum, it was interrupting a narrative that we play out over and over again. And so to me, when it comes to being an ally, it means that I got to risk being comfortably one of the guys in this space to stand up for what's right. And so that's the way I look at it anyway. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like our last guest is joining us, and let me go ahead and introduce them. Morris and Claudette are a couple that are originally from Jamaica, West Indies, which is a very conservative country. It is rumored to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most churches per square mile. That's wild.
Wow.
Together, Morris and Claudette have 5 children between the ages of 38 and 12. One of their 5 children is gay and another is transgender. Morris is a PCLA analyst and Claudette is a nurse manager. They've been together for 29 years and became allies when their youngest son came out as transgender in middle school. The road was not easy. They actually used PFlag. And if you will welcome Claudette Green into the group. Hello, Claudette.
Hi.
Hey.
Can she hear us? Maybe not. Hello? Maybe not. She may not can hear us. We'll take her off and add her when she comes back. All right. So, Bryce, you've been awful quiet today.
I really appreciate how you said people are willing to open to learn, because you can educate somebody about what it means to be LGBT, what it means to be ally, what it means to be transgender, but they have to be open and willing to accept the knowledge. Because there's been a few times when I have people in my life or my own family ask me to educate them and get them knowledge about something, and I give them the knowledge, but they still shooting it down. They're like, no, I just don't agree with it. Like the other day, my cousin, she gave me a ring for Pride. She gave me a rainbow ring. She said, "Here, these are your colors," and I said, "Thank you." But I remember, like years before I came out, she was one of the people who was saying that she didn't think same-sex couples should adopt children, and so she did come a long way. But I still feel like there are times in my family where they still have negative feelings towards bisexual men, and they also negative feelings towards transgender people. So it's kind of one of those things that it's not us. It's not even about us willing to educate. It's about those willing to accept the education.
And one of the things that I definitely love that he said was, I'm going to put myself out of a comfortable situation and be uncomfortable for a moment to spark this conversation. And I think that is one of the most important things that people need to understand in regards to them becoming an ally, because I know that my family has been, I haven't really experienced the harsh of being a gay Black man. And for my family wise, we've had conversations, we think things like that. But I've never was kicked out for being gay or anything like that. I didn't have that journey. I didn't have that story to tell. And however, what I realized though is that, just because they tolerated me, didn't mean that they accepted my lifestyle, and didn't mean that they accepted me. And I found that out very similar to what you said, Justin, because I do think that a lot of times, even inside of the gay community, we tend to are afraid to kind of step outside of our comfort zone. Because I have been in places, and I have been in situations to where, they may think that I'm a straight male today, right? And so they're having this homophobic, conversation, and I'm too afraid to say anything like, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm gay too." Oh no, I'm one of the guys today. Let me talk, or things like, let me not say anything and just listen. So I think that what you said spoke to me in so many different ways, because even within our own community, sometimes we also miss those pockets of speaking out and saying something and educating and taking ourselves out of those uncomfortable positions. So I do think that and I agree with you at some point. I do agree with you wholeheartedly, because I do feel like we're gonna need our straight allies to kind of do that, because like you said earlier, our life is at jeopardy sometimes when when it happens. I can speak out at the wrong moment, and turns into a whole different thing than what I thought it would be, as opposed to just being a conversation.
Sure.
So just very similar to how we say we are relying on our white allies to speak up as it relates to Black Lives Matter, I think that it is important that other people understand that we are also relying on our straight allies to speak up for the LGBT community, because that's where the change is going to come. So I appreciated that, and I think that spoke to me the most out of everything you said, was taking yourself out of comfortable positions and being uncomfortable to have that conversation.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think to that point, I mean, the thing is, it's thinking about the emotional labor, right? So again, you already have enough emotional labor. And so like in this area, it's not the same labor for me. So it's incumbent upon me to step up, to create that space. And so instead of constantly saying, hey, it's on Johnny to advocate for himself, not that Johnny can't advocate for himself, not that Johnny won't advocate for himself, but at the same time, sometimes it's best for me to go ahead and take that initial heat and then just to kind of create that space or whatever else, and then fall back and say, hey, Johnny, you tell me where you want this to go. Like, I'm not trying to do it for you. I want to do it with you, but at the same time, I'm willing to kind of step in front of the train first, take the first shot.
Okay, and I think that I do think that's one of the things that we have, that same model we have to kind of use for us and understand that we know what we're looking for, as it relates to what can an ally do for us as as the LGBT community.
So I have a question, and it's a little messy. How can we combat homophobia within our community?
I feel like it's so multi-layered. I feel like religion is part of it too. One, I feel like this fear of femininity in Black men is one. I feel like it's so many layers to it. It's just a lot.
No, I mean, the thing, we got to really deconstruct the shame, right? And so I think, and so I do a lot of stuff too when we talk about historical racial trauma and everything else. So again, when you're looking at these challenges of being historically emasculated, whether again, literally from the beginning of there, again, you could have somebody who you were married to and have a family with, and somebody else can basically take them to another room, rape them, and produce other kids, and then you just kind of go on as business as usual, right?
Right.
And like, it's like psychologically, like, again, I always tell people, like, we really, like, beyond the fact of what the broader America does, but as a community, we really do not really look at what is the impact of all of this stuff, generation after generation after generation. And so, I always, when I talk about shame, I often talk about it can take us in four ways, right? It can lead us to avoid, it can lead me to attack myself, it can lead me to attack others, and it can lead me to withdraw. And if you look at it, like, a lot of this is shame-based behavior, right? So sometimes we're avoiding the realities that we've always had gay Black folks, right? Like, it's a gender credit. Like, what was James Baldwin? Wait a second. Like let's go. Like again, like a lot of our most fierce activists, have been LGBTQ folks, right? But at the same time, like, we've avoided these realities, the attacking ourselves. And so again, somebody who is, LGBTQ, again, whether we're talking about just literally self-hatred, whether we're talking about substance abuse. I always talk about the language. If you think about the language we use when it comes to drugs and alcohol, get hammered, get destroyed, get obliterated, get effed up, get shit-faced. And it's like, man, if you were saying that drugs and alcohol were involved, you think somebody got their butt kicked, right? And it's like,
right.
I kicked my own butt,
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Like I drank this fifth, and now I'm sitting here throwing up in the bathroom. Like, yeah, I beat myself up, right? Attacking others. I mean, when we talk about what's happening with Black trans women and everything else, again, a lot of that's their own shame. And so again, if either I'm lashing in or I'm lashing out. And so again, now I'm wrestling with my own questions of my masculinity and security in that. And then the final thing in withdrawing, just that's suicide. And so I'm thinking, like, we really got to really deconstruct the shame that's been carried out generation after generation across the spectrum, cisgender to transgender within our community. And we gotta stop lying to ourselves. Again,
Indeed.
This is not a new thing, right? Like, people being gay is not a new thing. It's not a matter of somebody created some agenda, whatever else it is we do. We got to stop pushing our folks to live double lives, to live, false lives and everything else. Like, I mean, when we talk about our rates in terms of HIV and everything else, I mean, between prison and between not allowing or not even just allowing, but empowering people to live authentically and safely, this explains
creating stigma.
Why we are where white people were in the 80s when it comes to HIV and AIDS, right? Like, so soapbox, but I think we got to have conversations as men across the spectrum and figure out how do we be comfortable with each other and realize it's not a threat to my masculinity for you to have a different preference than I do.
Right. I also want to talk about intersectionality within our own community, because I had this argument the other day with a former partner of mine.
Okay, well, give me 1 second. Let me bring Miss Green in.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello, Miss Green. You have to unmute your mic.
Hey, how are y'all?
Doing good.
Hey, how you doing today? Welcome.
Thank you. I am so sorry. I didn't see the link, so I texted Karen and I said I'm waiting for the link, and I didn't get it. But I'm glad to finally be able to join.
I am so glad you guys are here. I did introduce you the last time, but if you want to take a minute and talk about how you came to be a part of the allyship and the community that you're in, PFlag.
So, like I said in the intro, my husband and I, we have 5 children, and when my son was in middle school at the time, he came out as being gay, and it was a very difficult time for us. Like I also said in my intro, we're from a very conservative country, and it was a process to get us to where we are today. But God has a sense of humor. So because he realized we had not handled our son's situation very well, then he sent our second to last child as a transgendered kid. And so it was through him that we actually was able to do a better job of, taking care of our children the way that they need to be taken care of, just like any other human being.
That's awesome. That's really exciting to hear that I have a lot of, my husband's family is from the West Indies. So I am very familiar of that conservatism that you speak of. And that's really exciting to hear that you guys were able to rise to that challenge. I congratulate you on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll let Maurice speak for himself. I don't like to speak for him. So.
I guess.
Hello, Mr. Green. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Hope you're doing the same.
We are.
Yeah. I could just echo, just about what everything my wife said. We were ill-equipped to deal with our son's issue when he came out as being gay, and we're happy we had kind of like a do-over, an opportunity to do it right this time. And we found PFlag through our son's therapist. And yeah, it has been an interesting journey. We learned a lot, and we adapt. We adapt to the situation. I think we would say, I would say we rise to the challenge, and now our transgendered son is heading off to college. You know,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're so proud of him and so happy, you know, that we had a chance to do it right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think that oh, go ahead.
uh-huh.
I'm sorry, Ms. Green.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say that I think, you know, just based on some of the conversations that was being had earlier, that's, I think one of the problem with the African American community is that we don't have a lot of education out there, you know. So even at the time when we were struggling to find support, it was a white community that we had to go to get that,
Right.
you know, and that's kind of sad that we don't have the resource and the education out there for the African American community. So this is really a great opportunity, I think, for us to be able to be a part of this, you know, educational journey as well.
Oh, you made a very good point, Ms. Green. You made a very good point. I think that that is something that I can actually talk all day about what you just said. Honestly and truly, because I feel like, you know, in a sense, is that yes, we are so far behind as a community,
Right.
as it relates to mental health as a whole. Not to mention sexuality.
Yeah.
Not to mention sexual identification or how a gender identification.
Gender identity.
Yes, gender identity. Thank you so much. Gender identity. So I think that that is something that we have to work 10 times as harder to kind of catch up on, because
Yeah.
I do feel like that was mental health was something that was purposely taken from us, or purposely withheld from us. You know, so that we were able to kind of be able to kind of stay repressed and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, I appreciate what you just said. That makes a lot of sense, and it is something.
Well, I'll tell you, it's because of my children's experience why I decided to do my doctorate in mental health, because I feel that the African American community needs people like us. So
They definitely do.
Agree.
They definitely do. I know that we had touched on getting over homophobia, but Bryce, you had a question that you wanted to ask.
Yes, I said I had a discussion the other day about Black Lives Matter and Black Trans Lives Matter, and my former partner of mine feels like that the Black Trans Lives Matter movement is hijacking the Black Lives Matter movement. He feels like, you know, we're a Black first, so we shouldn't be discussing Black LGBT at the moment. So I kind of wanted to get into touching that, like, how would that feeling come about, and how do we combat intersectionality within our own community? Because one minute we're saying all Black Lives Matter, but then next minute when Black LGBTQ are talking about their experiences being Black and how they face police brutality and murder too, it's like, oh no, we're not talking about that right now. Right now we're talking about cisgender Black men being killed by police.
I'll certainly respond. I don't know if I want to give the Greens a chance to respond first if you want to. I've been on here talking for a while. So.
Well, so I think again, it goes back to that homophobia, right? That there is still a lot of stigma in the Black community. And so, yeah, we can talk about you being Black, but don't talk about that other stuff. Let's just push that under the rug, you know? So I think that we still have a long way to go to overcome that homophobia in the African American community. And the good thing that I think with the generation that we have today is that they're not going anywhere, and they're very vocal. And
They are very vocal.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have to be telling my son sometimes it's okay to calm down. You're not going to But I think that with the generation that we have today, we're going to be able to overcome the challenges that we're seeing in the African American community. It's just going to take time, and so we have to be very tolerant. So when somebody say that we're not dealing with that right now. There are times where we're going to say, so when are we going to deal with this? If not now, when? But I think that, it's going to take some time, but I think step by step we're getting there.
Right.
Yeah, and I would just add, the church has dogmatized this, these issues for such a long time that, it seems
And still do.
Yeah, the same. The more religious, and there are a lot of conservative Black folks. They go to church, and it's where a lot of them, form their opinion of LGBTQ issues, and I feel
life in general.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just one of the tragic things that happen.
So since you brought up churches, I have a quick. I'm sorry, Justin.
Justin, get a chance to respond.
No. I was gonna say no. I was gonna kind of piggyback off of it, and I think it's really again understanding the parallel. Like really, when we talk about deconstructing white supremacy, is understanding how we've adopted elements of it. And so, like with white supremacy, it was created for white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male landowners. So again, you got race, you got ethnicity. Then you move into religion. There's your Protestant. Then with male, we're talking about again toxic cisgender man, whatever else, right? Then landowner. So then you got your class element, and so even what we find is even within the race. So once we take out that white Anglo-Saxon, we're still keeping the rest of the totem pole in order, right?
Right.
And so now we got this toxic male energy, and then we got the Protestant religion kind of oppressive part, and then we got the class part. And so to me, it's really, I guess, one of the things I really respected about this movement is that in the historical civil rights movement, which again was incredible, one of the things they recognized was a patriarchal element to it, right? And that the voices of women weren't necessarily uplifted at the same level. And so what this movement has done is said that now actually we got to go from the ground up. We got to go from the place of where are all of the multiple layers of oppression happening. And until they're free, none of us are free, right?
Exactly.
So it's not that I want to move up the totem pole. I want to completely dismantle the totem pole. And so I think it's like, to me, I don't look at it as like, we'll deal with that then. It's like, well, if we're not dealing with that, then the totem pole is still in check.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Eventually, it's going to get right back on top of us. So we got to all work together in this space. So,
I agree with that totally.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Pretty good. So my question was that you spoke on the civil rights movement. It's interesting to me that the Black church is so against the LGBTQ when you have Martin Luther King, who was not against any kind of gay community. Malcolm X did not speak against the gay community. The Black Panthers did not speak against the gay community. But somewhere along the lines, the Black church latched onto this idea that any kind of LGBTQ anything was unacceptable. But when you look at the Harlem Renaissance, the majority of them were LGBTQ.
Yeah.
I love Langston Hughes. I do. But he's also a gay man. And most people don't understand or know that. You know what I mean? There are just some things that it's interesting how it's accepted at one point and then it's not accepted at another point. But where is the disconnect?
I feel like the disconnect is that people know that they're gay, but we're not going to talk about it. It's one of those things that have to float in the background. Like, oh yeah, you're Black, you're successful, you create this art. I mean, yeah, everybody know you're gay, but that don't mean you got to talk about it. I feel like it's one of those situations.
But the thing is, though, is
Mm-hmm.
why can't we get to a point where it doesn't matter? It doesn't
Yes.
matter who. I don't go out there every day saying my husband is Maurice Green and we're straight.
Yes.
Yeah, why
Right.
to that point where it doesn't matter, that you're gay,
Well,
you're a person.
we
Right.
Right.
get to that point when the church stop doing what they're doing. They have. I'm deeply religious, but some of the things that I've heard, and even my transgender son, who was active in church, that sometimes he could not stay for the sermon. He would, plays music and all that, but when it was time for the sermon, he would excuse himself, because of the hate that comes from the pulpit.
Yeah.
So, we'll get to that place, but we need to not shy away. Let them see who a gay person is, that they're no different from, they don't have horns, they're not some kind of strange creature. They don't need to be in a closet to be hidden and to be, they need to be respected and accepted, not tolerated,
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I think if you think about the shift of the church from really being very social justice oriented into that prosperity gospel, like our church got kind of taken over in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's why you kind of find so, and then so when you talk about the disconnect between young folks and the church, is again like the organizing was happening in conjunction with the church back then, right? And now
Mhm.
the
Right.
organizing is happening like at a distance from the church very often when you talk about the young folks. And so I think in the midst of that prosperity gospel movement, a lot of, again, political stuff got in there and everything else that kind of really hijacked really what this was about. Like, so again, moving from a movement of prosperity, moving from a movement of liberation, right? So again, because really what it was about liberation for us.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I think some of us started getting a little bit comfortable. Some of us started
Yeah.
getting some money and everything else. And so it was easy to kind of disconnect from all we got is us kind of energy. So. But I think
I can definitely see that.
Go ahead, John. I'm
Johnny?
sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I wanted to touch on, and Mr. Perry and Mrs. and Mr. Green in regards to parenting and what that transition was like for you guys. And as a gay male myself, I think one of the things that my parents kind of wanted to know is how to parent me. Like as if a change or a shift needed to be made. I wanted to play football as well. Just because I was gay didn't mean that's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
So it was almost as if like a shift in regards to things that they think that I would like because I'm this, or me having to overassert myself into something that I don't like to prove that I'm so much of a man. What are some of the tools and things that you guys use, even you inside of your counseling session, Mr. Perry, to help parents with LGBT community kids?
You want to go first, Mars?
Yeah. So one of the things we've learned is to listen. Listen a lot, and because a lot of time your child will lead you the way, and be patient, lots of patience. Don't think that you know it all and you want to impose your will on your child. Also, you want to protect your child because there are a lot of even family members around you that have a preconceived idea of what your child should be like and should act like, and so we try to protect as much as possible, even part friendship with some people who, they're just real negative. So if there's one thing I would say is there's really no difference in raising a transgender or a gay child than it is any other child, except that they need to be protected a little bit more because society is a little bit more hostile, or a lot more hostile to the child, and therefore you have to build trust where the child trusts you and know that you're an ally, and you can be there, because there's a lot of anxiety that the child is working through too, and that you just got to be that person, that rock, that soft place for your child to land when society try to push them down.
Yeah, and I echo what Maurice has said too. I think what happens though, and I think sometimes we have to give parents a little bit of grace because they're trying to figure it out themselves too. And so asking a lot of questions. So I think my child has been my greatest teacher. I've learned so much from him, and I say that, tell parents, just ask questions. If you're not sure, ask, and they'll be willing to tell you, because oftentimes I feel like they have a doctorate degree in transgender and these issues, if you're willing to learn at their feet and humble yourself, you can learn so much, and your child will tell you. Your child will tell you how they want to be treated. When it comes to disciplining the child, it doesn't differ from you're going to discipline any other child. You want something good for your child. You want them to achieve. Yeah, where is the homework? Why did homework not come? Yes, you may be having some anxiety about the things that you're going through, but we're going to get you the resources that you need so that you can get through that, and life goes on. You're not going to be any different from any other child,
Awesome.
But it's tough following them. But I think they hit on some key things, and I think for me, like clinically, when I'm working with families, one of the things I always do with the parents first is really I'm honing in from the very beginning of, do you love your child? Like, and we're gonna keep drilling through that and everything else, and then we can actually start having these other conversations. But I got to start this point of remembering. Okay, you remember when you had this baby and everything else, and it came out, and all you want to do was just to protect him and everything else. Yes, this is your baby, right? And like sometimes kind of getting them to reconnect with those instincts, but to the point of what Dr. Green was saying is that also understanding that there's a level of education that's going to come in this. In the same way that if I'm in an interracial relationship, and if my kid is biracial and I'm not used to dealing with racial things, well, I'm gonna have to start educating myself, right? And so as a parent, part of it is educating myself to that point about grace, is saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes also acknowledge it for some parents, there may be some grief, right? Like, and it's not to say that there's something wrong with the kid. It's saying that maybe I had these certain visions that may be a little bit different now. Like so there's certain little things that may be different based on our laws and stuff like that. So, okay, well, cool. That's something for us to work through. All right. But with your kids, what we want to do is we want to kind of meet them where they are. I mean, I think Mr. Green said it best is it's the same thing with my kids. My son, like he's got basically a dog that has the same haircut and everything else he has. And he's got other action figure toys and whatever else. And, and it's like, look, you're going to play with whatever you play with, right? And we're going to rally around what you do. It's not that I'm going to try to steer you, because regardless of whether it's around sexuality or gender, or whether it's around who they're going to be with, or whatever else, kids are kind of like wet bars of soap. And you get that wet bar of soap and you squeeze it really hard and it's going to slip away, right? And what I got to do is I got to still keep a grip around my kids, but I got to keep a loose grip. I got to give them space to kind of move around and maneuver in this and let them know that they're still nurtured, and I'm going to love them regardless. And the last thing I'm going to say is that I'm going to do a little preparing of them for some aspects of the world,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to treat you and everything else. We're going to try to surround you with friends and family that treat you like this. But there's some people out in the world that, and what I would say to my kids, I'm like, I don't know what it is. They've got some sadness in their lives. They've got some sadness in their lives that makes them want to kind of to pay attention and poke at other people's lives because they're not really happy with stuff. Right. So when they kind of hear it that way, it's kind of like they can still look at that person instead of looking at them as somebody to be intimidated by. It's looking at, man, something must be going on with you or whatever else. That where it still may hurt, but it takes some of the power and the sting out of that. But I'm going to give you a heads up that there's some people out there who may not understand. There's some people out there who are ignorant. There's some people out there that are just mean. But a lot of times these people are also hurt and whatever else. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find those people who really love us, who treat us with respect, and we're going to give our time and energy to those folks. And, you know, we're going to pray or whatever it is for those other folks, you know.
To piggyback a little bit, Mr. Perry, what I found though is that in the mental health arena is that not all therapists are created equal, you know. So my son that is gay, we were going back and forth to therapists, yet I never got support as a parent to be able to help my child, you know, through that journey. Whereas it was totally different with my transgender child. We got the support that we needed. We got the help that we needed to be able to help the child. And you cannot have a child in a community growing up without the support of the parents. Because if the parents don't know how, you need to help the parents to get through that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we need tools ourselves, you know, to be able to do that. And parenting is one of those things that, you know, we're not given a book and said, hey, parent this child this way. You know, there are no two children that are alike, you know. So I think that the mental health community and the therapists and all of these people out there, they have to realize that the child is not living in a vacuum, that he has a family that is supporting him or her, and that they have to help those parents to be able to support the children.
Absolutely. And that's what we think about a systems approach. Like in social work, we look at person and environment, right? And so again, I can't operate, like you said, as that kid is in a vacuum. Like there's going to be times where I have sessions primarily with that kid so they can speak freely. Right. And we're going to still check in with this system because the unit is impacted, right?
Absolutely.
And how do we get to speak a shared language so that we can be kind of cohesive in this work? So I think to your point, and I think that is a reality of our field, because sometimes what happens is people come in and it's like, I've got the quote unquote identified client, identified patient. And it's like, no, this is a systems issue. And we need to make sure that everybody is aligned. And so I think your point is dead on. It's something that we as a field have to do a much more effective job at.
Yeah.
Yes. I actually love what you just said. Is both of you guys what you just said. I do feel like you know, me and my parents also didn't have that support. They didn't really know how to kind of support me. They did the best that they could. But I think that if I found resources on my own, my therapist found resources for me, but there was nothing for my parents to kind of help me along that, which is something that I think a lot of times that create that little hole or that space in between. My parents don't understand me. My parents just don't understand because they're not along on that journey. Not because they don't want to, but because there's no way to kind of help them transition that for you or transition that for them. So I really that also touched home for me as well. So one of the things that I wanted to ask, I know we actually about to be a little bit over time, was how did PFlags help both of you guys you know, with parenting and or you know, just as far as the community as a whole, like what did PFlag actually come into play and how did they help that transition for you guys?
Well, one of the things that we found really helpful is just the understanding that you're not alone, that, you know, there are other parents feeling the same way you are, going through the same things that you're going through. Because it can be tough, you know, when you feel like your family is different and what your family is going through is so much different from the other families. But PFlag provide that safe space where you can, you know, be candid about how you're feeling, and how express your how other parents are going through exactly the same thing that you're going through. Then you feel like, okay, it's we can do this. Even sometimes there are parents who are further along on this journey than you are, and it just really, the whole environment just foster that kind of camaraderie and peer support environment. So that I found that to be really helpful for me.
Yeah, and I'll echo the same things that Maurice said. That it was the support, having the support of other parents that were going through it. But I can tell you though that from an African American standpoint, we were the only one there when we were there, and that created some challenge because I've actually felt guilty in the beginning, because you feel as though, oh my God, these parents are so much further along and welcoming and accepting of their child. And it's not that I didn't love my child and accept my child, but I had to dismantle all the things that I'd been taught, all the expectations, all the dreams that I had, all of these things that had to die before I could get to this place, and so I didn't get there overnight. But when I went there, it was like everybody was there, yes, there were parents that were crying, but there were parents that, seemed like they were, oh my God, they enveloped their child from day one. And, and I wasn't like that, initially. It took time to get there because, like I said, there were a lot of things that I had to deconstruct in order to get to this place, so PFlag was very, very helpful, and I don't think that we could have got to this place without them. And we go back today, still pre-COVID, to support other parents now that are going through that, because they have been so helpful to us. And there were many times when I would call Karen crying, so we're very grateful for PFlag, very, very grateful. Yes. But I think we need more resources for the African American community.
And to get the word out to the African American society, that community, that that
that's a safe place.
There's a safe place.
Yeah.
So because we know, this statistics are clear. There are a lot of Black kids that look like us, and parents that look like us that really do need the help. Mm-hmm. And it's just, getting the word out to them that there is support. They're not alone,
Yeah, that's why I wanted to have you guys on, because when I met you at Pride last year, I had never heard of this organization. And I had been an active part of this community for 20 plus years. Right. My sister used to be on the Time Out board, so to find out about it at this late date was amazing. And when I talked to my sister, she was like, well, yeah, that's there, but I think it's a white organization. I was like, no, I meant Black people.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why when we talked about this, you guys were the first ones that I wanted to reach out to, because I think PFlag is a fantastic resource.
Absolutely.
That so many people could use. I mean, I've had conversations with parents, I don't know how to be supportive. What can I do? I'm worried about this. And that's something to navigate them. And so they don't feel like people are judging them when they're asking these questions is really important.
And please know that we are more than willing to help other parents and who might be going through this, because it takes a village. You can't do it by yourself. So.
Well, no. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I am surprised that I didn't know about this as well. Mm-hmm. I never heard about it. But one of my questions was, being that you guys still very much involved in it, have you seen any increase within the Black community at PFlags, or coming to PFlags, or seeking help from PFlags at all?
So we have seen a few drop in and out. They typically do not stay around. So they'll come maybe for a few meetings, and then they'll drop by the wayside. I do have one other person that comes quite frequently. She's also from a Jamaican background, and we keep in touch with each other and support each other that way. But yeah, it's very few, and I could see how others coming in could be intimidated by that as well, because initially I was intimidated by the fact that my experience is not your experience. For example, you didn't grow up in a church where you were told every day about brimstone and fire, and and from a community where you would be killed if you talk about being gay. There were music that was saying, "I will kill you. What are you talking about?" And this was widely accepted. So they didn't have that experience. So they couldn't tell me then how to really dismantle that. Yes, they could support me through this and to help me to support my child, but that part of it, they couldn't help me with. I had to do that by myself. And so I think that from that perspective, I could see how sometimes some people from the African American community could be a little bit intimidated by that. We didn't let it intimidate us because we knew what we wanted for ourselves and for our child. So.
Plus, not everybody is comfortable being in a group with, like bearing your soul to white folks. I would say not that there's anything. But we all know that there's some hesitation there when you're in a group and you're one among 20, 30.
And not to give, because I know that especially the Black community as well, sometimes they are reluctant to find a church community that is supportive. But I can tell you that our church that we were going to at the time when our son came out as being transgendered, we left that church. We were very active in that church, and we found a church that was very welcoming to our family and to our children. I don't know if you guys know about it, Myers Park Baptist, but it's my it's my place, it's my home. So yeah.
No, Ben Boswell, we good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Bryce, you've been so quiet.
Because I'm taking it all in. I'm just happy, relieved, and I'm learning so much, and I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah.
I will say really quickly, just I would say listening to the Greens. I mean, I think the thing that I hear that always resonates, that kind of it's a universal thing, is that we all want to feel like we belong somewhere, right? And I think, and that's really what this. So again, whether we're talking about the kids or whether we're talking about the parents and everything else, like it's that sense of belonging, and and so having worked in the addiction world, like I work with folks on the continuum. So there's folks that are like doing the harm reduction. I know you were talking about earlier, and then there's folks that are full on 12 step, everything else. And what I always tell people about with the 12 step stuff is not what makes the 12 step work is not just the book in particular. It's the community. It's the fact that I can say something and not be judged for it in this place and everything else. And the words they always saying is, in order to keep it, you got to be willing to give it away. Right. And so when I listen to you all, that's kind of what I hear is like, okay, I've gotten some grace and some peace, and now I want to give it away to other folks.
Absolutely.
Right. As I can hear my 3-year-old does not have peace in her voice out in the other room at me right now.
One of the things that I also thought about as you were talking, Justin, was that as it relates to PFlag, I was kind of curious to see, especially when the African Americans that came and wanted to be a part of PFlags, was the father also involved? Because oftentimes I know that the mother of an LGBT child tends to be the one that kind of flock a little bit more in regards to getting help. And because of the father being having to not only accept their child, but also go back into the community and work and do different things, and hear this and hear that, and go on social media. These are things that I've experienced. My dad going on my MySpace and Facebook page and seeing things and being teased by his friends and family. But were their fathers also involved in the African American community, particular, that were coming to the PFlag meetings as well? Whenever you had those ones that dropped off and dropped on.
I can only think of one father that was involved, and he came by himself. The mother was not there. So, and then the others that I've seen were mothers without the.
Yeah, they are white fathers, but not that. Yeah, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that it takes a very strong African American male to be able to go at. My husband is a very strong man, and so he has friends who are anti-gay and all of that, but he stands up for what he believes in, and even with his family members, being able to stand up and say, I love my child, and with our son, I was going to send out a letter to my family and friends and say, hey, this is what my child is, accept him or not. And we didn't have to do that because our son was very out and proud. And when we went to family gatherings, he turned up as a male and, and was very proud of it. And we supported him, and the rest of the family fell in line. Of course, we have some Jamaicans who are still behind the A-ball, but but it's like you accept us as we are, or you go by the wayside. In December, our son got married. Our gay son got married, and we were very much proud and posted his pictures online with his partner, with his husband, and very proud. So we're proud of our kids.
And I asked that question because Justin made a very good point earlier on in the conversation. I'm not sure if you heard that, was when he was saying that he, as a cisgender male, had to make himself uncomfortable in a comfortable situation to actually start the conversation. And one of the questions that was asked earlier was, how do we destruct the homophobia inside?
How do we get rid of homophobia?
Yes.
In the Black community?
Yes, I do think that it's going to take us really, really, really actually challenging the male figures inside of our community to be able to, especially the male allies in our community, to be able to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So those dads that have those children, those, dads that, that are, I like to say tolerating. Being able to kind of get educated and actually, and not just love your child because that's your child, but actually go a step further and say, this is a part of this, my child. Let me educate so that I don't have to go out and feel bad about my child, once I leave the presence of my, it's just, I do think that that's something that we're going to have to do as a whole.
Yeah.
And actually challenge our male figures to kind of, get educated and be uncomfortable.
I think we need more resources, though, for the community, because many of those African American males are not going to be comfortable going into a white group like PFlag to bare their souls. They're going to want to go to people who look like them, who may have a better understanding of what they're going through. And so that's where I believe that we need to create more resources, more groups that can speak to that.
Agreed.
I know for me, every guy I've ever dated has always had to be comfortable around my sister and my gay friends. That was the test point. Once you meet them, nothing matters until you meet them.
Mm-hmm.
When me and my husband got together, we had 3 other male roommates, and I had a Jamaican, a guy that was from a way country bumblefuck place, and another New Yorker. But it was a social experiment for me because I wanted them to be able to meet people and realize that the preconceived notions that they have weren't real.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very fulfilling to see them go from being uptight and uncomfortable to being able to sit down and play video games and talk shit. To ask me, hey, where's so-and-so? We ain't seen him in a while. You know what I'm saying? Or to ask, how's so-and-so doing? And what are they doing? I saw this on Facebook. And that meant a lot to me because I know where they were in the beginning. It means a lot that you no longer use slanderous words because you know those people are people. It means a lot that you don't think every gay guy that you meet now wants to hit on you.
Right.
And for me, that was how I was able to kind of push the narrative a little bit. I think that's part of being someone who cares about the community, is putting other people around you in situations that they may not like, because this is my life and this is my community. And most of the time, I never got a lot of pushback from it, kind of interestingly enough.
I think one of the questions Maurice always asks is, of some of the people that have some phobia is, do you choose to be straight? That was not a choice for you, it just was. And so it is for someone who is gay. I mean, it's not a choice for them. It's who they are, and so, yeah.
No, I say that exact same thing, and I've said that. I was telling them earlier about in the barbershop. I said to folks in there, I was like, nobody can make me gay because I know what I like and what I respond to. Like,
right.
In the same way that you're not gonna make anybody straight. Like, again, we are who we are.
Exactly.
Right? And so it's just recognizing your body, your emotions, and everything else respond to certain things organically. And so you just happen to be lucky that what you respond to doesn't have the same stigma in our community with somebody else. But it's not that you are any more worthy of you chosen something else. Right. It's just that what you respond to, people are accepted.
Right.
And I asked them, so what would happen imagine if you had to be forced to be gay or whatever. I was like, what? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just saying. But this is when you're talking to somebody else about forcing them to whatever else, this is what the reality is for them, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's like we are drawn to what we're drawn to. It's not a choice.
You're on mute.
Jonathan, you're mute.
Thank you. So we're going to actually have to end it out because we're over time, but I do not want you guys to kind of click off. If you guys can stay on and stay backstage, I'll be in out because I got some more questions I wanted to ask you guys. Is that okay?
Are you talking to us, Jonathan?
Yes, you, Mr. and Mrs. Green, and Mr. Perry. Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So I'm gonna take you guys off in a second. Y'all just stay put for me, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I can eat some more then.
What he say?
So he can eat some more.
Oh yeah. Patrice, I'm really thankful for that conversation. For actually bringing that up. I actually kind of a couple of times. I enjoy Justin and I enjoy his perspective in regards to being a straight male. And that whole concept of making myself uncomfortable inside of a comfortable position. I think that touched me in so many ways. To it's unreal. So and then hearing parents, realizing that I didn't do so well the first time. Let me show that I have the opportunity to actually try this again. Let me challenge myself and rise to the occasion. I thought that meant a lot to me, actually. I really appreciate that conversation. I appreciate that topic that you brought up.
Well, you're welcome. It's something that's important to me because it's hard to, even just watching my sister go through what she's going through. She had, my parents are very supportive, and she has the crazy older sister that threatens people. So a little bit different for her, but I also watched the struggle that she went through. And I know that a lot of that was because people are taught one way, and although they may be willing to accept and understand that religion is so keyed into emotion and our logic that sometimes they can't accept that.
Right.
And that's something that is a disservice to me that religion does, but but I do think that allyship is important. I'm sorry.
It is. No, you fine. This conversation was really good. It was really powerful. I was quiet because it brought up a lot of things that I experienced, and it validated a lot of things that I experienced. So it made me feel a lot of feels.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey, Rashawn, I got your message. I'm glad you watched today.
So I'm going to close out. I do want to let you guys know that if you yourself want to know more about PFlag or want to join PFlag, we're going to get the information.
We can't hear you.
Pull your finger.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. If you yourself want to know more about PFlags and you want to get more information or even be a part of that group, we want to have information on our Keeping It 100 page, as well as as well as on our personal page as well. We're also going to advertise Justin's counseling. It's called the peer counseling service.
Healing and recovery. Yes.
Yes. So we're going to advertise that as well on our page, so you have access to the information. You can kind of hit us up and hit Patrice up rather to kind of get transitioned into that service. So without further ado, we're going to close out. On my closing, I want to let y'all know that we are still doing the virtual focus groups for people who are not on PrEP or have had PrEP before. Again, I'm gonna try not to get in my soap opera, but what I'm saying is traditionally we have had white people to sit behind desks and create interventions that relates to us in our engagement in PrEP. We know that is not working. So from here on out, it is our mission, it is our duty to step up to the plate and create interventions for our own community. What that look like is us getting together and brainstorming and focus groups and talking about our experience our experience as it relates to PrEP. So we have a virtual focus group right now. In that focus groups, we're talking about how does our peers view PrEP? What do we think about PrEP? Why are we hesitating about getting on PrEP? Again, the goal is not to walk away with you thinking that I want PrEP. Is to get your mindset of where PrEP is at today inside of our community. That's it. We're going to pay you for your time. So if you hit us up, hit myself, Patrice, Bryce, or Sean, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. Adjacent to that, we are also doing the in-depth interviews. What that look like is if you are on PrEP right now or have been on PrEP before, I want to know your journey. We want to know what worked, what didn't work for you. How did this affect your life, your family life, your friends' life, your social life? Like what was affected? How were you affected? And by doing so, your success story can be the success story or can help somebody else. So we want to hear your success stories or your failures, because we can find the problems in your failures and help somebody else still. So all of that is important. You can hit up myself, Patrice, and Bryce for the in-depth interviews as well. And also you are also being paid for those interviews as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. Shout out to CREW. CREW stands for Community Resource and Empowerment and Wellness. That is our sister organization. That organization focuses on substance usage as well as mental health as it relates to the harm reduction. Again, it's a little small insert. It's not about stopping you completely from using your drug of choice. It's more so to kind of get you to a goal to where you feel like you are functional with your drug of choice. So for instance, if I'm deciding to do drugs 7 days a week, at this particular moment, and my goal is to do 5 days a week, I'm still going to applaud that. That is a goal. That is something that we're looking forward to, and we will try to get you there. So if you would like more information about that, please inbox Sean. Please inbox Sean. He'll kind of get you in the right direction. He is a spokesperson for CREW. We also have Project Uplift. Uplift is a intensive case management program that is for the LGBT community. RAIN only focuses on individuals as it relates to people who are living with HIV or living without HIV and are interested in PrEP. However, Uplift, if you don't have any interest in PrEP and you're not living with HIV, you still have access to get case management services. And that's where Uplift kind of steps in and actually fill that void. So please contact Uplift if you are looking for case management and you're part of the LGBT community. And that's all that I had. That is the news that we had today. I want to thank you guys for joining us. I am Johnny, and this is the outreach team. I'm gonna let Bryce give his little outro.
Hey everybody, my name is Bryce. I'm the peer protection specialist at RAIN. I specialize in getting those who are positive, who've been out of care for 6 months or longer, and I re-engage them into care. Also, if you're newly diagnosed, I get you into care within 2 to 3 weeks of your diagnosis. I case manage you for a year. I help you navigate your care, and I give you tools that you remain and be retained into your care. So if you or someone you know needs my services, please call the number down below.
Hello, everybody. I am Patrice. I am the Prep and Prevention Case Manager here at RAIN. I also do healthy sexual conversations within the community. We go out and talk to people about how to be safe and be smart about what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with having sex and doing what you're trying to do, but just please be safe about it. Please be an adult. If you have questions about PrEP, please don't hesitate to either text me or call me at the number below. And my last thing to say is that if Black Lives Matter, then why are you not on PrEP?
Yeah. Good night.
That's all I want to know.
Last but not least, thank you for that, Patrice. I love it. Last but not least, I want to announce our winner for last week's contest. Our winner is...
Oh, yeah.
Our winner is... Montel Iman, St. James.
Congratulations.
Woo! I will be inboxing you tonight to let you know how you can redeem your prize. Thank you for joining us tonight. You guys have a nice one.
Bye.
Peace.